Culture of place is somewhat of an abstract term, and it stumps many students, and they struggle to really get a grasp of what it's about. Culture, yes, it's a difficult thing to study, but culture is multifaceted. So when we're talking about a city and its city's culture, it's about how we can see, feel, hear uh, its particular culture. And we know that a city does not have a monoculture. Within that city, there are particular subcultures, and particular areas are different from other areas. And that's because of things like streetscape, noise, vitality, lifestyles, architecture, um, heritage. And there's some of the things that make up culture of place. So Sydney's culture of place, like I said before, you've got many areas within Sydney that have totally different characteristics. But Sydney as a whole, we have said before that it's a multicultural city. It's made up of many cultures, hence the word multicultural, of course. It's dynamic, it's ever-changing, it's busy. You go to central Sydney, it's a feast for the senses. You're continually hearing traffic. Unfortunately, sometimes the pollution is a little evident, the air pollution, from time to time. It's busy, there's lots of people on the street. You have architecture. Now, some of you are quite fond of architecture, and I guess it's interweaving effectively heritage architecture, so buildings that have been there for some time, and new architecture. And we have one example of that at the bottom there. On the right, we have the Queen Victoria building, very grandiose building in central Sydney, retail hub made up of many floors, stratified, I guess you could say. The higher you go, the more expensive items seem to become. So QVB is a real trademark of Sydney. On the left, bottom left, we've got the Hilton Hotel. So the Hilton is, of course, a big international brand, synonymous with luxury, and it attracts many international visitors to Sydney. I've been lucky enough to stay there once for one night. It's about all I could afford on a pre-teacher's salary. But what was it like? Why am I mentioning this? What we see is the Hilton being very close to the QVB. And you've got this sandstone being a major feature of this particular area, that particular tone and colour of the building, and that's mirrored in the Hilton. But it's mirrored in such a way that it's integrated in, I guess, a really clever sense. We've also got the old and the new. You've got glass. Glass is a favourite of every modernist architecture or architect, I think. It's very obviously quite clean. It's crisp, and we see that there with the Hilton and the Hilton's restaurant right at the front there. So how can a city interweave both heritage architecture and new buildings effectively? Barangaroo is another great example of this. Barangaroo Headland has been designed in a way to mimic what was originally there. So some areas of that development have actually been returned to the harbour to restore the original shoreline. And then you've got the old and the new. They've tried to integrate some new infrastructure, obviously the new buildings that are quite different, but also into that particular area, and I guess interweaving the old and the new there. The finger wharves in Woolloomooloo, another prime example, very sought after residential areas, interweaving the old and the new heritage architecture, finger wharves being culturally important. That's where the embarkation point for for people, soldiers travelling to World Wars I and II, obviously culturally important, but it's also seen some development with restaurants, with very expensive hotel in that particular area going into that. And so I guess when we look at it, when we're talking about culture of place, what can we see? What can we from these particular developments? What does it tell us about Sydney? in terms of its cultural characteristics. So streetscape noise vitality. Let's have a look at the top two photographs. So the top right is of a night festival in Cabramatta. Cabramatta is a community in southwestern Sydney, known for its Vietnamese culture, obviously displayed through restaurants, through streetscape, and if you were to do a quick Google search of Cabramatta, probably what you would see is the entry gates to the main mall in Cabramatta, synonymous with obviously Vietnamese and Asian architecture. So they're busy night markets. You've got lanterns obviously dotting the street there. Vendors selling all types of food. It's busy, but people feel a sense of belonging. It might be a sense of cultural belonging, shared interests, shared beliefs, and that's important to that particular area. The same can be said for the image on the top left. So Sydney's Mardi Gras, obviously an annual event which attracts many people from around the globe, is an important event for Sydney's gay, lesbian and transgender community. A very busy time, people pack the streets, very colourful, noisy experience, which many hundreds of thousands of people join in on. So what does that say about that particular area of Sydney and its vitality? Very much an alive place. So culture can also be represented through religious architecture. So here we have a collection of places of worship all throughout Sydney, from the top left being the Mosque at Lakemba. The middle on the top is the Jewish synagogue in Bondi. We have St Mary's Cathedral in central Sydney, the Sikh temple in northwestern Sydney, and the Hillsong Church out towards Castle Hill. So what does this tell us about that particular area, its culture? Obviously, people with shared interests, wanting to feel a part of something, that church community, that synagogue community, that mosque community, religious community, feeling a sense of community, shared interests, and that being displayed through architecture. So let's look at one community, its architecture, streetscape, noise, vitality, and what we can tell about a community, its culture of place, just through looking at a few images. So Newtown is southwest of Sydney, a real cultural hub of Sydney. If we look at a few images there, so the top right we have, gentrified townhouse type living. That is actually Campos Coffee, very famous coffee roaster, and I think throughout Australia, or at least in New South Wales, they are a big name in quality coffee. So cafe culture, Campos Coffee is only just up the road from Sydney University, which is technically in Camperdown, but a lot of young people who live a cosmopolitan lifestyle, cafe culture becoming more and more important within that particular culture, may visit that cafe on a daily basis. So also you've got the top left there, restaurant culture, cafe culture again on that main strip in Newtown. It's busy, it's noisy, you see lots of young people who are from various subcultures themselves, might be university students, you've got wealthy people working in that area, and also artistic, creative types who frequent that particular area as well. Also quite a number of gay, lesbian, transgender people in this particular area. Bottom right, you've got Newtown street markets, which attract quite a number of people, so busy, crowded, and that is what attracts many people to those areas, not just the things on offer, things that you can buy, but also people with shared interests, that community feeling from markets. Bottom left, we have the Newtown Social Club, which holds many entertainment events, many of your alternative bands, DJs, producers, that type of thing, play in this particular venue, and that can attract people from all around. And obviously, somewhat of an alternative, architecture, culture displayed just on the walls there through that street art type of wall face. And you've got the Newtown School of Performing Arts, which is quite a high achieving performing arts school in that particular area, and I guess is relevant to its Newtown's real creative and sense of culture, as we can see from just these small number of images. It's real, I guess, dynamic area. So culture of place, a little bit difficult to understand at first, but if you break it down into those various elements, you'll gain a different understanding. So I guess it's difficult to come up with one particular description of a place's culture, but what can you see? What can you hear? What can you smell? What type of architecture is around you? What type of restaurants can you frequent? What type of buildings, residential areas are present in that particular area? What does it tell you about that community? So culture of place is that and more.